breaking the frame is comes out of my experience and other people's experience of working on these kinds of issues in a world that has existed since Buzzards stopped. And I've worked on a bunch of different things. A lot of time I spent on the anti-GM food campaign. Between about 2000 and present time, my main focus has been on human genetics issues, and I'll just say very briefly, maybe anybody interested can talk to me about it afterwards, that we're right now in spring 2015, we are on the edge of the thing that I certainly have been trying to stop for the last 20 years, which is the genetic engineering of human beings. We've now got a technically safe system for genetic engineering of human reproductive tissues, and so we're really looking at crossing that line right now. Another thing that's happening at the moment, and that not many people know about, is the latest generation of what Stephen was talking about, the politics of genetics, race and IQ. There is a project actually based in London and also in China, which is about trying to find those genes, identify those genes by looking at genetic samples from very high IQ groups from the Chinese elite academies. It's just seriously bad news. But I won't talk too much about that now. Okay, what have I learnt in this sort of 20 years that I've been working on those issues? Well, the trouble is that we have all these single issue campaigns that are reacting to, the environmental problems, social issues that come up as a result of the corporate industrial use of technology. And those campaigns do lots of great things. The GM food campaign is an example. One of the most success, one of the few campaigns in this kind of general area that has actually, had a very significant victory that has held for quite a long period of time. So those campaigns can win. But what happens is that the corporate, industrial, military, technological complex keeps on generating new technologies that keeps us, we're just on this treadmill of trying to fight them, and nobody's addressing the actual, fundamental source of the problem. And another thing I learned is that the way people react to all these issues is generally very much determined by how they feel about the whole idea of technology as progress. That's time and again, the same people, those who believe in technology as progress will support every new technology, and those who have a skeptical view, will find a reason for opposing it. Oh dear. Okay, so I think a very important thing I've learned as a result of working on the politics of technology for all these years is that it's not a side issue. Technology is what constructs our world, really. It's the material basis of life. And so, of course, it has a massive impact upon the whole way in which our society develops. But the way politics deals with this is to just kind of generally ignore that. Most people think, oh, well, technology just happens, and generally it's a good thing anyway. And we have, those issues are treated as kind of side issues that are interesting to scientists, radical scientists, and so on. But it's, they're seen as fringe issues. And I think that what that misses is that, that's just simply not good enough. Given the crucial role of technology and technological development in our society, we just have to do better than that. Okay, so, and I think that issue has become, sharper still in the current environmental crisis that Peter has talked about. It's interesting now we've got the futurists who are always the people who, want to tell you about the wonders of technology, who are now setting themselves up institutes of existential risk they think that there's existential risks for humanity in all the new technologies that are coming forward. There's Institute at Cambridge and at Oxford. It's just kind of quite interesting. And all those risks that they're talking about are risks that fundamentally originate in technology, whether it's artificial intelligence or geoengineering, synthetic biology, robots taking our jobs, whatever it is, we're in a real, we really need to get to grips with this. And I think we need a new theory and a new practice. And so I think, so I'm going to talk a bit about the kind of ideas. And here I'm talking about really my own ideas rather than, I can't claim that these are the ideas of Breaking the Frame. Breaking the Frame's a rather loose coalition at the moment. Theoretically, we need to get to grips with this. I think it's pretty obvious to everybody that the corporate and military control of technology is very clear, and the way that they use it to, sort of advance their short-term interests and in general preserve the general industrial capitalist system. I think that is, I'll take that as read, and I think the root of the problem in the overall capitalist system, I think I'll take as read, and I think a lot of people know about that. I'm not going to talk about that too much. I think there's something more than those problems. I think there's a whole system of power and a worldview based on technological thinking, which I've been calling technocracy, which I kind of crudely defined is power and control over nature and control of people and society through that control over nature. This is the area that many writers in the 20th century, Max Weber, the Frankfurt School, Lewis Mumford, Jacques Ellul, Ivan Illich, and of course many people in the Green movement have been trying to get to grips with, is this technological power system. So where does that come from? This was a system that kind of first arose with the scientific revolution. The key philosopher of the scientific revolution, Francis Bacon, his maxim was knowledge is power. He didn't say knowledge is a good thing. He didn't say it's very important and interesting. Knowledge is power, and that's been the root of how our society has really, the material basis of how our society has worked ever since, really. That it's based on control over nature in order to do three main things, basically: create profit, create military technologies that will give you a military advantage over your enemies, and social control. It's based on the philosophy that the Bacon and Descartes and the original members of the Royal Society developed, this kind of clockwork mechanical model of nature, which enables you to control it and also to set up a new sort of philosophy of order. I don't really have to. I don't have the time to go into all of that, but it's very much about a philosophy of order in ordering of the world and ordering of society. And there's a big gender dimension to that, which again I won't have time to talk to. The classic book on that subject is Carolyn Merchant's The Death of Nature on the gender politics in the scientific revolution. So what you get developing in the 17th century is this kind of worship of the machine, worship of efficiency, of rationalisation, and that being defined as progress, basically, the constant rationalisation of society, creation of order through technology. And, a classic statement of it would be something like Frederick Taylor, who was developed the what's called Taylorism at the beginning of the 20th century, the system of production line management and time and motion studies of how exactly precise movements, how workers operated. And he said, in the past the man was first, in the future the system must be first. That's a classic statement of technocracy. Another nice one I like is the banner that was posted over the 1933 World's Fair. This was really the high point of political technocracy as an actual political overt movement, and the banner said, "Science discovers, technology execute, man conforms." It's about, that's a very clear demonstration of power through technology. So I think the main manifestation of that over the last 400 years has been industrialism, and I think that as many people in the Green Movement and many people in other movements as well have pointed out, that forcing of nature to conform to those concepts of efficiency, rationalisation, and order is just as much at the root of the crisis, the environmental crisis we've got now, as the capitalist drive for profit, without any limit. I think the rationalisation of nature without any limit is just as important. And so I think that technocratic system has brought us to this crisis, and I have to fundamentally disagree with Peter in saying that we need to address that with geoengineering. Geoengineering is that's the people who burn down the forest telling us how to replant it. Geoengineering is technocracy written as large as it can be. It's attempted utter control of the entire biosphere. And at the same time we have this idea of utterly rewriting nature from scratch in synthetic biology, coming in at the other level of scale. So I think we're seeing this new generation of techno fixes being proposed, and I think we need something very different. So okay, I will rush on, and I won't mention the Luddites, although I think they're very crucial. I'll come back to the present day and the practical problems and how we're trying to deal with it through breaking the frame. I think one thing we're trying to do is to get people to understand that that technology, there is this technology has its own politics, which I've called technocracy, and it's expressed in all the different issues that, whether it's people fighting fracking or internet surveillance or robots or whatever, that there's this underlying thing going on. And that what we need to do, therefore, is bring a lot of people together, from different issues, and try and create a network with some kind of unified voice and unified analysis. Obviously, there's always going to be a lot of different voices, but we need to get people, on the same page around the politics of technology. In the way I think that Busrus and the alternative technology movement did for a while. And we need to counter that fragmentation. So that's what we've tried to do with the Breaking the Frame issues, is to the Breaking the Frame gathering is to bring a lot of different campaigns together to talk about all these different issues in the same venue and hopefully in something of the same language. I think we're trying to create a proactive approach that tries to stop us constantly, having to run around on this treadmill of new issues and new problems being created by industrial technologies, by really trying to get to grips proactively with the idea of democratic control over technology, of taking the power away from the technocrats, and I think that's an issue that a lot of people can actually understand and can get behind. I think we obviously have to counter the idea of the technology as progress ideology. That's why one of the things I think the Luddites are so important. The Luddites were not against technology. They were against technologies that were hurtful to the commonality, to the common good, including the environment, and there's a whole set of interesting meanings around that word commonality. Thank you, Margaret. And the other crucial thing we have to do is to insist that these issues are not side issues. These issues are not, a bunch of things you can only understand if you're a very clever technical scientific person. That these issues have to be at the centre of politics. If we are ever going to really get to grips with the way this world works and the way it constantly generates new forms of oppression and exploitation, we have to get to grips with technology.